This video aims to give you clarity as to whether or not you put a toilet in your van conversion and the issues that surround that decision. This content is sponsored by Outdoorsy. Through Outdoorsy, you can rent your camper van out to make extra cash, and you can rent a van to try van life before you commit. There is perhaps nothing more controversial in a van tour than a van without a toilet. Where do you shit? Despite its repetitive nature, it is actually a pretty damn good question. In reality, like it or not, we all have to go somewhere. And if you don't have the means to do it in your van, where do you do it? And for those who are thinking of building a van conversion or buying a van, this question is really important and it actually has a few sort of moral implications. This video is part of a series we're making on responsible van life. And as the appeal and desire for people to experience the freedom and benefits of van life grows, so does the impact on the places we visit in our vans. All visitors anywhere have some kind of impact, but it is our responsibility to reduce the impact we have on the places and communities that we visit. When it comes to van life, as with most forms of tourism, not all places are affected equally, and that is pretty much the nub of the great toilet debate. Question is, where will you visit in your van? If you're going to spend your time way up in the mountains, far away from the masses, in places where there are very few people, very few van lifers, in those circumstances, then doing your business in nature, digging a hole, far away from the paths, far away from water sources, burying it properly, taking your toilet paper with you, it's pretty sustainable and it's going to have a pretty low impact. However, if you visit popular areas where there are many other van lifers, lots of tourism, perhaps like it's a popular beach, and then if you imagine a few hundred people just going over and having a dump in the dunes, it's clearly not going to be sustainable. It's obviously going to have an impact, and as much as there are many responsible people, there are some which will leave their toilet paper strewn around and poorly buried, or simply not buried shit everywhere. This is a real problem. It is totally unacceptable, and you can totally empathise with the local people who want to ban overnight stays in these locations. No one wants to walk their dog past piles of people's feces. If you plan to go to touristy areas, especially those popular with van lifers, and end up with concentrations of vehicle dwellers, then you need a toilet. This is not really negotiable, and actually it's not even a big deal to have a toilet in your van. There are a whole range of options. Check this video out for a few good ones. But wait, you say, a toilet takes up a lot of space. It's expensive, right? And you have to have a black water tank, and you have to get these big hoses and pump the effluent to a proper place, and you might have to pay for that. The reality is a toilet does not have to take up much space in a van. It does not need to cost a lot of money, and it can take you a long way towards being a more responsible van lifer. If you plan to live in cities, you probably need one anyway, for the times when the public restrooms are not open, during the night when you don't want to have to try and find a place in a park to go. Obviously this is not sustainable, this is not ideal, and it's not a pleasant way to live your life. So pretty much if you city van life in, you need some form of toilet. And of course, if you're a popular location van lifer or city van lifer, and then you go off on the beaten track and you're deep in nature or up in the mountains and you don't necessarily need to use your toilet, you can go out and you can have your nature poo. That's no problem. It's completely reasonable to do that. So the reality is, for the majority of van lifers, some sort of toilet is a must. There are of course certain van lifers who spend all their time in the mountains and never really go into the towns or into the popular tourist locations. But even for those people, it's useful to have an option when they pass through those areas or pass through cities. So the next thing is to spread this message. People are social creatures and we generally need social approval. So if you have van lifer friends who do not necessarily do their best to reduce their impact on the popular areas, or not quite disposing of their waste in the appropriate way, then you can just have a little word with them in a non-confrontational manner that actually it's better for everyone if they take a bit more responsibility. Now, they might just brush that off at first. It might feel a bit like an attack, but you don't have to worry about it. You can let it sit because it will go in, and it's not a really hard thing to change. So you'll probably find that over time their behaviour will actually change. You might think, why should I care what other people do? Why should I have to police them? Well, that's because their shit affects you too. Maybe not directly, but as van life expands, so does the impact on the communities that we visit. And they often react quite aggressively, and they want to ban it, make it so you can't stay there at all. And that's clearly not good for van lifers. So when bans on van life becomes normalised, it becomes easier for laws and bylaws to be passed against vehicle dwelling. And that doesn't just affect you, that affects everyone in the van life community, and not just everyone in the current van life community, but the people who would like to, in 10 years time, have that feeling of like liberty and not pay rent and travel to beautiful places and live cheap and like have all of those great experience that van life gives. So let's take responsibility. Let's do our best to give van lifers the best reputation they can get. As I mentioned, this video is the first in a series that will help educate van lifers and protect ourselves, protect our community through responsible van life. If you find this useful, please share it with others, subscribe to see more in this series, and thank you so much for watching. I really love the van life community. Like, so many people pop by here, we meet them on the road, and overall it's a highly responsible, really great bunch of people. And let's keep it that way. Let's help guide the people who don't fully understand things into making better choices which are better for everyone. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you hadn't noticed, we do sell an ebook for how to convert a van. It has over 190 pages of detailed instructions and diagrams, also 25 video tutorials which are specifically for the ebook buyer. Creating a van for many people is obviously a really intimidating project, but I really believe, and I've seen it time and time again, that with the right information, anyone can turn out with a pretty decent van conversion. So check the link in the description, subscribe to the channel if you are not already, and drop us a comment if you like this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.